What's up, guys? Flippin' Steve here, back with another video. In today's video, I want to talk about things to look out for when you're making your online purchases. Now, when I say online, this is mainly pertaining to eBay because they have certain things in place that don't necessarily always protect the buyer. So, with that being said, I'm going to talk about things that are my personal experiences. That's what I talk about here on my channel. So this video isn't being put out to put out all kinds of awareness for everything, but just things that I've stumbled across and experienced firsthand as I've been looking at recent cards to buy. So this is stuff that still goes on, that's been going on for a while, and a lot of this is going to be common sense to you guys, but there is also people out there who are new or who do accidentally hit that purchase button sometimes in a hurry without looking things over. Number one, I'm going to touch on shill bidding really quickly. I don't like to harp on shill bidding because, like I've always said, it just exists. It's just there. If you don't know that it's there, it's there. I'm telling you now. So, different ways to try to protect yourself from shill bidding, because eBay is not going to protect you, is to make sure you just always check the bid history on the item that you're trying to bid on. Make sure that you're not competing with people with very low feedbacks. 100% of the time, it's not going to be the case that it's a shill bidder, but a majority of the time, you are going to protect yourself just by looking and seeing, is there someone with 2 feedback that just keeps putting in small bid increments, jumping the price of an auction? So make sure you go into the bid history. It's right there. It's easy to look at, right there on your eBay interface or on your listing, right under the description. So always go and check that. Now, if you're looking for buy it nows and you're looking for comps, you also want to make sure, if you see an item that's sold on eBay and has a comp, you also want to go and look at the bid history on previously sold items and make sure that that comp isn't inflated due to shady activity on the bidding. Another way that I like to protect myself from that is I never like to put in my max bid very early. Say, for instance, a card. There's a card that I would like to pay $1,500 for at max, and say that card gets bid up to $1,400 and I win. But then I go and I look at the bid history and I see what seemed like to be the last legit bid was around $1,000, and then there was 4 bids of $100 a piece by somebody with 2 feedback, and then they quit. So basically they jumped that card up from $1,000 to $1,400, when really the last person that I was really competing with to win was at $1,000. So that's one reason why I don't like to put my max bid in too early. I like to wait my auctions out and be there at the end when it's about to end and try to get my bid in there, especially if I feel like it's safe, checking the bid history throughout up until the end. Another thing I want to talk about is player used versus game used patch cards, memorabilia cards. That's another thing that I dabble in. I like to buy. And you want to make sure that if you're buying game used, which draws a premium in the market, that the card is in fact game used. Okay, you will find listings that say game used patch. Check the photo of the back of the card and make sure, just don't take the listing's word for it. Check the photo of the back of the card if there is one, and make sure it says game worn on the card. The card will say it on there. If it says player worn, then it's a player worn. Regardless of what the description on eBay says, it's player worn. Go by what the card says on it. Now, sometimes you'll run into a problem where someone doesn't show a photo of the back of the card, and typically that means they're trying to cover something up. They're trying to hide something from you. In this case, it would be the fact that it's a player worn piece of memorabilia, and they've listed it as game used, and they don't want you to see that their listing is deceptive. So this will tend to lead into just always ask for more pictures. If you're not happy with pictures of the cards, if you don't see everything you want to see, whether it's a serial number, so say for instance it says a card is serial numbered out of 20, but the serial number is on the back, make sure you get a photo of the back of that card if it's not there, to see that that card is numbered, or see that that card is game worn and not player worn. Also, you want to see the condition on it. I mean, that's a no-brainer. That's going to take me into the next topic, and that is condition of the card. Nowadays on eBay, people really like to say in their description, please see pictures or please see scans, something along those lines, for condition of card. Nobody likes to label their card as a certain condition anymore because we live in a day of grading cards. And if someone buys a card that someone says is mint, and then they get it in the mail and the buyer feels like it's not mint, then they want to make a return. And because grading is subjective and none of us are professional graders, someone may view a card as being mint and somebody else might view it as being near mint. So again, make sure you're getting extra pictures, contacting the seller, be like, hey, can you give me some really nice photos? I'm really interested in your card. You know, be cordial about it. Get your photos, and if they decline to give you photos, then more than likely it's a card that may have a condition flaw on it. Now, sometimes you have buyers that are just overwhelmed because they sell a lot. You might not get an answer. You know, I guess if you feel safe, pull the trigger, but if not, just wait for that card to come up available again and get some better photos of it. That's also going to lead into encased cards. Cards that come encased from the manufacturer, whether it be like Panini One or Panini Flawless or things like Topps Dynasty, cards that you know are supposed to be encased. If you see those cards raw, okay, they probably have some sort of condition flaw to the card. In most cases, what happens here is someone busts that card out of the encasing and they send it in to be graded. And then it doesn't grade as well as they thought that it would or that they hoped that it would. And then they snap the card out and then they put it for sale raw. And a lot of times you'll see these cards up for like a deal, maybe 20 bucks to 50 bucks cheaper than the other card, the encased version. However, keep in mind that I'm going to guess that 90% of the time, and that might even be a low number, that these are cards that have been removed from the encasing, sent to be graded, and the grade was not very good, so then they were snapped out and going to be sold raw. And in this case, more than likely, you're going to get the person, the lister is going to be like, please see scans for condition, and they already have had the card graded and know what the card actually is, and that's why it's in raw form at the time of being sold. So protect yourself from that. Know the cards that you're buying. Know not just the values and the comps and, you know, what's a rookie card and condition, but also know from that aspect. Know, hey, some cards, you know, are redemptions and they come encased, or some cards are like Panini One, they just come encased already. There's even a product called Encased. And make sure that that card doesn't come in a raw form, or make sure that card, you know, has not been busted out, and, you know, like the example that I was just talking about. And the last thing I want to touch on is going to be qualifiers. And you might ask yourself, what is a qualifier? A qualifier is going to be an acronym that is applied to a PSA numerical grade. So to break that down, you know, PSA grades on a scale of 1 to 10. A 10 is never going to have a qualifier on it, but a 9 will. A qualifier will usually be a set of initials / an acronym standing for something else that's wrong with the card. Okay, a lot of times you'll see this, a PSA 9 with an OC. OC means off-center. You may see an MK, which is like a mark. You might see ST, which is a stain. That means there's something else on the card that the person getting the card graded has asked the grading company, PSA in this point, to overlook and apply a numerical grade to this card as if this issue on the card didn't exist. However, it will then be notated under the numerical grade. One that I see quite often is the 1981 Topps Joe Montana, because that's a card that I'm personally looking for in a PSA 9. And sometimes I'll look at a listing and I'll be like, oh, that looks like a good deal. And someone will have it listed as 1981 Topps Joe Montana PSA 9. But then when I go to look at the photo of the card, I will see that it has an OC on it. You know, in the hobby, in the market, it's usually a general rule of thumb that a qualifier deducts that grade by a numerical value of 2. Okay, so if this is a 9 off-centered OC, then this card should be priced around the value of, say, a PSA 7. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Sometimes you can get caught up in this because you see a card at a buy it now, say for instance, the card that I'm talking about. You might see the card that I'm talking about now at a $1,500 to $1,600 price range, and you've been losing auctions all day at $1,800. And then you're like, oh my God, somebody's got one up for sale. You want to click it really quickly before someone else has a chance to buy it out from under you, and you don't take your time to dive into the listing or dive into the photos. And next thing you know, you've bought yourself a card with a qualifier. I don't know how eBay is going to protect you from that. Maybe if it's not disclosed in the description or the title, maybe you can get a return. I'm not really sure. Just avoid that altogether. Avoid that problem altogether by being aware of what you're buying and look for your qualifiers. So that's just some things I wanted to talk about that I've experienced recently. Grading qualifiers on PSA cards, condition with photos, game used versus player worn, encased cards being busted out to be sent graded and then being sold raw because they didn't grade well. Just multiple things. Make sure you protect yourself. And this is just stuff I said like I've experienced. So if there's stuff that you guys have experienced, comment that stuff below and let me know some of the things that you've gone through, whether it's recent or whether it's been a while. And put it in the comments to help me out as well and to help out everybody else. We all keep each other's head on a swivel, and we'll be safe, and we'll make these purchases, and we'll know what we're getting. Thanks, guys. I'm gonna head into work. I'll run into you sometime on a live stream or my next video, and you guys enjoy the rest of your day.